The history of human civilization is typically presented as a linear, albeit arduous, climb from the primitive to the profound. We are taught that roughly 6,000 years ago, in the Fertile Crescent of Mesopotamia, the first sparks of true society were ignited. However, the Sumerians, the very people credited with inventing writing, the wheel, and the division of time into units of 60, left behind a document that fundamentally shatters this conventional timeline. The Weld-Blundell prism, a clay artifact inscribed with the Sumerian King List, does not speak of mere centuries or simple tribal successions. Instead, it records a staggering 241,200 years of history before a global cataclysm changed the world forever. To understand this document is to confront the possibility that our origins are not accidental, but rather the result of a deliberate, technical blueprint established by an advanced force we are only now beginning to recognize. The record begins with a phrase that implies a transfer of authority from a non-earthly source. After the kingship lowered from heaven, the kingship was in Eridu. According to the list, the first king of Eridu, Alulim, reigned for an impossible 28,800 years. He was followed by Alaulgar, who ruled for 36,000 years. In total, only 8 kings held the throne before the Great Flood, spanning a combined period that challenges every biological and archaeological law we currently hold as truth. From a modern scientific perspective, these figures are easily dismissed as mythology or poetic exaggeration. Yet the Sumerians did not treat these records as poetry. They were recorded with the same cold, administrative precision they used for grain receipts and tax records. When we look at these numbers through the lens of a silent lineage, the idea that an advanced architectural force was once physically present and operational on Earth, the narrative shifts from myth to a technical report. These kings may not have been humans in the way we define the term today, but rather biological prototypes or the architects themselves, governed by a different set of genetic rules and operating out of what the texts call the Abzu. The Abzu is often translated as a deep water or a primordial abyss, but in the context of Sumerian technical descriptions, it takes on the characteristics of a subterranean biological workshop. It was the domain of Enki, the god of wisdom and craftsmanship, who is credited with the creation of the first human workers. If the Abzu was indeed a laboratory, then the extreme longevity of the antediluvian kings begins to make sense as a matter of genetic engineering rather than magic. These were the firstborn, individuals with a cellular structure designed for stability and long-term maintenance. In the Sumerian tradition, the presence of these kings was what maintained the order of the world, a period of high-tech stability that lasted for millennia until the system reached a point of catastrophic failure. The King List reaches a sudden, violent break with a simple, haunting phrase. Then the flood swept over. In the Sumerian tradition, particularly the Atrahasis epic, the flood was not merely a natural disaster, but a calculated decision by the gods to silence a humanity that had become too numerous and too noisy, a possible ancient metaphor for genetic or social deviation. Following the receding waters, the list resumes, but the nature of kingship has changed fundamentally. The first post-flood rulers still lived for over 1,000 years, but the decline was rapid and irreversible. We see reigns dropping from 1,200 years to 900, then 600, eventually settling into the human lifespans we recognize today. This phenomenon points toward a genetic reset, a deliberate factory reset of the human species, where the source code for extreme longevity was modified, truncated, or encrypted. The most compelling evidence for the King List's validity is found in the figure of Enmebaretse of Kish. For decades, Mainstream scholars dismissed him as a total fiction because the list claimed he ruled for 900 years. However, archaeological excavations later uncovered physical inscriptions bearing his name in the ruins of Mesopotamia, proving he was a living, breathing historical figure. This creates a profound paradox. If Enmebarajsi is real, where exactly does the myth end and the history begin? If the Sumerians were accurate about the kings we can prove existed through physical archaeology, why would they fabricate the ones who came before? It suggests that the list is a continuous record of truth, and the only thing that has changed is our ability to believe in the reality it describes. The secret to understanding these reigns may lie in the Sumerian mathematical system itself. Unlike our modern base 10 system, the Sumerians used a base 60 sexagesimal system, organized around units like the SARS 3600 and the NUR 600. This is the same system that still dictates the 360 degrees of our circles and the 60 minutes of our hours. The reigns of the antediluvian kings are all perfectly divisible by these units, suggesting that their lives were synchronized with vast astronomical cycles. It implies that the architects of our reality did not just build cities, they installed an operating system for time and biology that we are still running on today. We are the descendants of a much longer story, walking among the ruins of a civilization that measured life not in years, but in epochs. This transition from the era of long-lived kings to the era of short-lived men marks the point where the direct connection to the original architects began to fade. Central to this transition were the Me discs, described in cuneiform as physical objects that contain the fundamental blueprints of civilization. These were not metaphors for knowledge. The texts described them as portable devices that could be loaded with information. When a city possessed the Me for weaving, it gained that technology. When it possessed the Me for warfare, its soldiers became invincible. As these discs were moved, stolen, or lost, the technical mastery of the Sumerians began to stabilize at a lower, more manageable level. The high technology of the Abzu was withdrawn, leaving behind only the silent lineage, the genetic echoes of a more advanced past. What remains of this epical history is not just found in the clay of the Weld-Blundell prism or the ruins of Eridu. It is encoded within our very cells. Modern genetic research has identified vast sequences of non-coding DNA, the so-called junk DNA, which constitutes roughly 98% of our genome. While early researchers dismissed this as biological waste, the perspective of the silent lineage suggests these sequences are actually encrypted archives of the genetic modifications performed in the ancient past. Scientists studying telomeres, the protective caps on our chromosomes, note that our cellular repair mechanisms seem to have a built-in limit that prevents immortality. This biological ceiling mirrors the sudden drop in the Sumerian King List, suggesting that our mortality was a programmed feature, implemented during the post-flood reset. We are currently living in the shadow of a civilization that understood the universe through a technical and biological lens we are only now beginning to rediscover. The Sumerian King List is not a book of fairy tales. It is a ledger of a lost reality. It records the moment we were disconnected from a higher state of being and placed on a path of limited time and forgotten origins. By decoding these ancient records and comparing them to modern genetic and astronomical data, we are not just studying a dead history, we are reading the user manual for our own existence. We are tracing the lineage back to the laboratory, back to the Abzu, and back to the moment the kingship first lowered from heaven to change the course of Earth forever. Our past is not what we were told, and our future depends on our ability to remember the blueprint from which we were made. Thank you for watching. If you seek the truth behind the silence, subscribe to Silent Lineage. The past is no longer quiet.